Hello, welcome to Low-Code Campfire. This is episode number 229 for January 30, 2026, and this is another Open Lines Friday. Low-Code Campfire is an event that we do usually weekly. It's just a gathering, get-together with Plant and App clients to discuss the things that we're experiencing as we're using and developing in the product. And we encourage you to bring something to show, be ready to help others. This is all skill levels welcome, whether beginner or expert, you are welcomed here. We record all of these and put them on YouTube. You can get to that at youtube.com/plantandapp. And yeah, you can hit the subscribe button if you want to know when we put new episodes. We usually put those in later the same afternoon after these are recorded, but hopefully within a day or so. We run this agenda week by week where we stop and say hello because we're a friendly group, and then we'll start going around the campfire, things that you want to talk about, our first call, and then things that were submitted in advance. We'll have some topics, and there are a few of those today. So then after we'll do some of those other things depending on how the time goes. And after an hour or so, we'll go into Afterglow. That's where we turn off the recording, raise a virtual adult beverage, and begin to celebrate the weekend a little bit. So do engage with us. You can use the chat window there, or raise your hand, or just unmute, get involved. You can submit questions and topics in advance so that I can do a little bit of research and put them on the agenda. You can just send an email to support@plantandapp.com and we'll do that. And I wanted to point out today we have with us Ros Van Stan. He's our customer success manager and trainee. If I'm out of the office, he might take over some of these low-code campfires going forward. With that, I'll say hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, everyone.
Ros Van, you know Patrick, and Matt is a frequent visitor as well, so you can say
Hi, Ros
hello.
Van.
Hey.
All right.
Hello, Rosman.
So first call stuff. Anybody come specifically? I mean, I know, Matt, we've got your topic in the queue already, but if either of you have anything else you want to talk about?
I don't have anything specific, no.
Okay. Well, then let's find Matt's topic. So this was kind of a question that started out, and let me see if I get it right, and you can maybe fill in some details, Matt. That you were talking about having a grid inside a tab, and so actually two different grids on the same page on different tabs, and the grid opened a form, and you want to have the grid copy open the form, but the form wouldn't open. So I've already given you the first hint. I recalled from somewhere that if the form was actually attached to the tab, that maybe that was the problem, and I think you confirmed that it is, that the form needs to be outside the tab.
Yes, that is correct. You can't use it, you can't call it from within one tab and then also call it from within another tab. Another tab.
But when you moved it outside the tab, it's sitting hidden on the page, and that works, right?
Right. You've got to uncheck it in the tab settings.
Right. And then, so now you're on to the next question of passing the ID of an item to the modal.
Yes.
And I think well, first, before we go on to that, are you doing this as a button or as a link, or how are you doing it in the
I would like to have it come by a link from within the listing itself.
Mhm.
And so what the idea would be is you have a link that opens up a modal tab, and inside the tab you've got this shared form. And I'd also like to do other things, put, listing inside the modal tab and so on. But just getting started with the getting the modal tab. Modal tab opens fine. I just dropped a dummy form on the page and didn't use it anywhere else but inside this modal tab. The modal tab is called from two different lists, and that works. What I don't yet know is how do I get the ID that I want, that I'm clicking on originally, into the stream so that the form that's embedded in the pop-up tab will load the right value.
Okay. So you're actually trying to load a separate page. Right. Is your modal? I'm just trying to think about what action you're using. Are you using open form in Popup, or are you using some JavaScript?
Well, the whole thing would kick off from, so I've got, let's say, two listings on the same page. Those are embedded in tabs. Okay. Then I don't know. I don't want to talk too fast here for you.
No, carry on. I'm trying to get there, but
Okay. So you have two listings on the same page, each on different tabs. What I want the items to do in each of the listings is open up kind of a shared modal tab. And inside that tab, I want to have a form. And on another tab, ultimately, I'll have other two tabs, I'll have listings and other things depending upon how this goes.
so you're opening
And
you're opening a tab pop-up.
A tab pop-up, correct.
Okay.
So for instance, if you linked, first name to open up a tab pop-up, what I need to do is get the ID for Dale Citizen into this tab pop-up to load your values and then be able to edit those values, if that makes sense.
Yep. Patrick, were you starting to jump in, or did I miss here?
no, I actually was going to ask a question, but he answered it already. Was the listing and the form both dependent on that ID? And it sounds like the answer is yes.
Yes, that is correct, Patrick.
I'm not sure if let me see if I've done this. This is okay. So I'm just trying to mock this up a little bit and see if I can come close here in the time. So I've got a form and people on a different tab, but you've got another tab that you want to open up when you click something, right? So we're going to have
So for instance, if you were to transform one of those fields, first name, last name, whatever, into a link, that link would then open up a tab.
that
And
has other stuff on it.
yes, it's got a form which needs to get your user ID. And that right now is kind of, I just did this morning, so I don't know. Can I embed an ID in that special object and then have it picked up, say, as a query string inside that the form that's in the embedded tabs pop-up?
And the answer is I think so, but let's if everyone's okay with it, I'll just explore. Let's see if we can mock this up. Hopefully it won't take too long. So we've got a second tab that's going to end up being it needs to be hidden until we use it, right? So we'll put it down, we'll mock it up down here, and then work with it a little bit. So where did I put it? Let's see if I can find it. So there it is. And that's going to have another listing on it. Let's say it could be a listing, could be a form. Let's do a form for now. It doesn't matter what's on there. We'll start with a form. So this is going to be, we'll call this subform. So here we go. So we'll have a manage form, blank form, subform one, and let's go ahead and display the user ID. So we'll prove that it's working if it is in fact working.
Okay.
And we'll see how, I think it's going to come from the query string. Okay, so we'll just assume that we're going to say it's the get user ID equals. Fair enough. We're not being fancy at all here. We'll just save that and go back. So this form is down here and it comes in that way. We're going to make it be part of the second tab that we had. So I'm going to take the time to name this tab so we don't get confused about what we're looking at. So we'll go into settings, and this will be the Popup tab. And I suppose let's do the other one. We'll call that the original tab. Man, that is a little bit smaller than in here in DNN 10 than I remember in older versions. Okay, and so we'll go to this pop-up tab and make some modifications here. So we have pop-up tab, and inside of it we're going to have info, and we'll show subform 1 on that tab. And I just like to kind of step through my development here, make sure we get that far. And then, so we got a tab, and it says, don't know if we provided a user ID here, that get would function. Perfect. All right, I'm going to take that off. And so now we need to turn this into a modal form so it's not hanging out here all the time, only when we need it. So we'll go to pop-up tab, see if I can figure out how to do this.
Open as modal is above that. Right there. Yep.
All right. So we can say
you might want to copy that.
Okay. I'm going to do this 2 ways, but we'll do it your way. That's fine. So now it's gone. It's hidden. And now we start working with the users grid. And we want to transform. You want to click the user ID, for example, turn that into
a link. No, above.
Link. And
self. I think you have to start the link with JavaScript : space.
Just out of curiosity, you're against the idea of using a button for this. You really want to be link, because I mean a button would be so easy. That's why I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not. That would be my fallback position, Patrick.
Okay.
I'm not
all right.
against it. It's just this would be better.
All right. I'm going to go with Patrick. The other would be easier. So
Okay, that's
I'm
fine.
I'm in the path of easy here. So I'm going to try this again.
And in theory, should accomplish the same thing that you could easily if you use the JavaScript link. It should still you should still be able to accomplish the same thing, but it's just a little bit more complicated with the JavaScript link.
So let's start with the easy way, and then we can move on to the hard way. So this would be to add an item button that's going to be open subform. I'm not going to get hung up on terminology here. The open tabs pop-up and stop execution is, I think, a right answer. The tab module is going to be the pop-up tab. This is why it's important to name them, by the way. Query string parameters, we can add user ID of user ID. And so that should pass whichever one we're clicking on. And there's some modal settings, which, let's do this one and see. This should make it be static, so you have to close out of it nicely to get out of it. Yeah, so that should do it. So let's try that. So we get a button. We're clicking on number 3, and we're getting don't know, so that didn't work. And then we'll do it again. Still getting the same thing. So let's see if I'm passing the right. Let's look at the construction of this button now. And I'm going back to users grid on a separate tab. So the field name is user ID. The button has open tabs, pop-up, stop execution. And oh.
What's object down there?
Well, that's interesting. It went away, so that's some kind of a bug. I'm going to stay away from those tabs for modal settings until I know what I'm doing. But I'm going to change this a little bit. I wouldn't have thought that I need a form refresh, but apparently I do. So I'm going to try a different one here. So we'll try the open and continue, opening the same thing with the same information. But now I'm going to do a initialize form and stop using the subform. So I'm trying to see if this is going to force our way through making that form initialize after loading. Let's see if that does anything different. No. Wondering if
one hint here, maybe you should initialize the form with a parameter down there, query string parameters.
trying to draw you into this, Razvan. So glad you're playing along. So let's, instead of doing it here, let's make sure that only one thing is active. So we're passing it this way, and let's see if that does it.
I think you might need to make it a get or query string token. Oh, maybe not. It's working. Okay.
So absolutely working. So to cover the answer, we're getting the tab open and not passing things through here, and I don't know what the value of this is if it can't be accessed, if it's not being accessed by the initialization of the forms, but initializing and stop, so gets us there. Okay, so does this make sense so far in your scenario?
Yep. Yep.
So now I think one of the challenges would be to put a listing on there and see if it behaves in the same way, because and I don't know, is there an action for refresh listing, show listing and continue? Doesn't have the same ability to pass a query string, so I'm concerned. Oop, that wasn't what I wanted. So
With listings, as I say, with listings, you need to just if you have more than one listing on the page, make sure you specify a URL param, in the settings of the listing, specify a custom URL param, and then you just update the URL, and that should do the trick.
Let's see if we can do that. So we're going to need another listing, and this is going to be the sublisting, right? We'll call it something like that. And doesn't matter where we drop it. It's visible for now. And this is going to be a SQL query. I'm going to select based on the user ID. Select start from users where user ID, find user ID to the get user ID, and we'll see if this can work, right? And the ID column is user ID, and we'll give it a bogus one here, so at least it doesn't blow up when we try to save it. And we'll add a couple of fields, user first name, last name. So we got it back. So first we can test to see if this thing works through the query string, and then we'll hide it, put it in the tab. So it's got nothing yet. We put user ID equals 2. And it shows the information for 2. So the listing is working. And now we'll put it on a tab in our pop-up tab. And putting oh, I didn't give it a name, did I?
No, it's the first one. Yep.
We'll give it a name here in a second to improve our life a little bit. And so we'll go into the grid and give it a name. And you also need to turn this to be manual, right? This is exciting. More work than we usually do on a Friday. So it's not down here anymore. I pick open subform and we're getting info good, but we're not getting listing hearing. It's
Did
actually,
you actually put fields in the list itself to display?
yes, I did, but let's get that subgrid 1. Let's get that up on the screen and see if we can. So the fields are there.
Yeah.
But we're not even getting, we're not even getting a node data. Looks like I've got to, initially visible should be fine because it's in the grid. So I was wrong on that. We're not doing it as a pop-up. It's in the tab.
Yeah. Good catch.
So no wonder nothing is happening. So
There you go.
now we're getting old information, and we're actually getting it off of this one here. We need to clean this up so that we're not doing that. So we hit number 6. We get 6 in info. Nothing here. So we're not getting it initialized yet. We may have to kick it as well. Let's try and see if that can happen. So we look at the users grid. Look at the button associated with that. And we want to refresh a listing. We'll do that early here. Listing is subgrid 1, but this doesn't give us the ability to pick. So we may yet end up having to push it through the query string. So it's this, I guess, we could again, on the users grid, we're not actually, I took it off, right? We're not actually pushing it through here anymore. So maybe it was optimistic to think it was going to work at all. So what I'm seeing is in our actions, the button is, this doesn't seem to be having any effect. And we have a way to open the form and force it to initialize through this. So that's why the form's working. The tools that we have for listing itself doesn't have the ability to.
And I might have missed it, but you set the listing to sync with URL, correct?
Well, that's a very good point. Subgrid 1. Let's do that. But let's try and see if that makes any difference. I think your original.
That you may have to push the value to the URL. That might be the case.
Yeah, to the original URL, which would be unfortunate. So this is interesting. This listing, this pop-up here, is changing the query string here. It seems to be monitoring. It's the same query string. It's a pop-up window on the same one. So again, I'm a little bit confused what you get out of this action. Open tabs pop-up. And
I might be wrong here, but you use get. Is that okay?
get is the same thing as query string.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think I understand what Rosalind's saying. You're opening the tabs pop-up and you're passing the value, so you wouldn't actually just use user ID there, right? Because you're trying to pass the value to.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, you actually have to code it right. Hopefully. Let's see if this does something. No. So, if we were to so we have sync with URL. I'm going to take my restriction off for a minute. So rather than filtering by user ID, we'll just get everybody. Yeah, actually, this will be a good experiment. And on the sync with URL, I am going to use subgrid as the query string prefix so that I can tell for absolute certain that the query string is being manipulated and what it looks like. So now I open this. It shows everything because it's not limited. If I didn't turn on a filter. User ID, filterable, save. My power just fluctuated. Am I still here?
Yep, we got you.
Good. Well, saved by the battery backup. Okay.
Mhm.
So trying again. If we filter by a user ID, we have subgroup filter 1, user ID equals 7. So it's really looking at this query string, right? The original query string. There's not a query string associated with this pop-up. And so I continue to question, why are we allowing you to open a tab and passing query string parameters? Right? But it looks like if we were to push this onto the query string with the open subform, that we would get what we're after. Does that make sense? And so in our open, rather than, we might need a refresh listing, but I think we need some JavaScript that will push that onto the query string.
Would it also be and Ben has his hand up. Would it also be a possibility to have the form itself refresh the subsequent grid with a query string value?
Well, there isn't, it would be possible to do it over there, but there's, again, the grid is looking at the query string
of the parent.
of the parent.
Yeah.
So until we get something on there, it's not going to go. But since Ben has his hand up, we always stop for Ben if we ever notice what's going on.
I think you're actually in the process of doing what I was just about to say, but you were saying now the query string doesn't get modified on the open of the tab, and I was going to say, well, what if you did JavaScript to use that command to push the change to the query string prior to the pop-up? But I think that's where you were heading.
Mhm.
See if there's a nice cheat here that I can. Yeah, this one is adding a filter. So if I were to pay attention to how this, how that button filter for user Dale, that's the JavaScript I want. So back to our users grid, and we're going to run something similar to this. So we are doing subgrid filter user ID is what we're trying to set. And let's get rid of some junk here. We are trying to set it to user ID and pushing it back. And yeah. Anyone have a better idea on that one?
Yeah, actually, I'm posting it in the chat. That.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. That's pretty,
That's what I've always used. I mean, you
Yeah.
guys have a function, a one-liner, where
Yeah.
you just give it the key and the value, and that's it.
What you're using is handy in a lot of situations, especially if you want to completely clear the key from the URL. That's using the get URL parts and then pushing the state back to the URL is very useful if you want to clear the key completely from the URL. But if you just want to update the param that's, if it's there, if it's not there, it'll add it. And if it's already there, it'll update it. This works perfectly.
All right. Do we think, do we like our syntax so far?
It's good to me.
Let's
Looks
give it a
good.
try. So we have a 7 that's up there. Let's try for a 1. It did change it to 1. We do have it. Okay, so now it's filtering. We have that. We have that. I suppose this one you could also, since you're going to the effort of pushing it through here, we could grab it from there as well. Right? So
Yeah.
let's do that. So this would be in our, we'll do a little bit of simplification here. So in our subform 1, the field value, we'll get it from, let's leave our original syntax and just do that. So we'll get it from there. And then we can simplify the button a little bit. So this is pushing it onto the URL. This is opening the tab, and we don't need it on the tab, and it wasn't doing anything anyway. We're refreshing the listing because we need it to pay attention to the, I didn't even know if we need to do this. Let's,
yeah, I'm not sure either.
pulse this out for a moment, and then we probably will need to initialize the form, but not with any parameters because everything's happening from that above. Let's see if we got there. So we click 3, we get 3, we get 3, we get user 3. So we didn't, that's a functioning set.
Yep.
And
yeah.
I was going to say, Matt, your original request was on that link. All this can be accomplished, but what you need to do is just create a function that uses all the that will update the query string, refresh the listing, and initialize the form, and then just on your link, just pass in a user ID to the function. That's what I would do. Yeah.
So I've simplified the button to a hyperlink, and so it's still a button, but it's doing the work. So you could still, on our data table, we can move the buttons to the left. I mean, this is not as flexible as turning a particular column into a hyperlink, but it can be, right? So it looks the same.
Yeah. Well, functionally, it's the thing about the not using buttons is a function of screen real estate.
Right. Do you have other buttons going on?
In this case, no, but I've got users with relatively small screens, and I want to display a lot of information in the original list, kind of like you're doing here. So having a field that essentially you turn, like you just did, into a button, or into a link, excuse me.
We can just turn this off and save that space.
You can put that link in any column you want, really.
Right.
Well, as a button, it can only go left or right. If you turn it into a link, you can put it in any column.
And all the stuff that Dale did on that button can be done and with the DNN-SF functions as well. So you could just create your own function on the page and then call it in a link.
Yeah.
Right, because we did JavaScript to update the query string. That's a function. Open tabs, pop up, and continue is a.
There's there's one for that.
Or there's a refresh listing, so you got to know the listing, the module number, but you can do that. And
well, your final answer there, you didn't actually need to refresh the listing.
Yep, refresh listing is gone. It's just really initializing the form and the
thanks.
Yeah.
So we don't want to do all your work for you, Matt. We've demonstrated it's completely
come on,
possible.
keep going. Thank you. This has been very helpful.
Yeah, and then since that tab lives outside, if we had another listing with still, I mean, your original problem was you have two source listings, but you want to open the same tab. You could still pass this same kind of information and get it to open. It doesn't really matter at that point where it's coming from.
Right.
But that whole subsystem will pop.
Okay.
A very neat problem.
Matt, does it matter to you that that your URL is visible with that information in it? Does it matter?
In my case, in this particular case, no. Although I could see where that could be a concern for other areas. But to get this particular thing done, no.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you, aside from the concern, do you have any suggestions on what you could do about that?
Yeah, I've wrestled with it several times. You've got cookies, you've got local storage, you've got a combination of a cookie and another table in your database. I have been using that method a lot lately. I drop a GUID in a cookie, and then I look up that in a table. I call it a data bin, but it's just a storage that connects the GUID cookie with a piece of information that I want whatever to access. Like when that pop-up grid opens, it can go get the cookie, look up the value that it's supposed to hold, and deliver it when it's being opened. So it keeps the URL spotless. I also put a timeout on all those little pieces of information so they go away on their own.
Yeah, yep. That's a good suggestion.
So you could probably do it by session as well, which would be off the outside of the realm of somebody being able to manipulate it. You would probably have to use. I don't know whether you'd be able to do that totally through JavaScript. The button, you could definitely do it. 99% do it. And then just throwing out another thing, there is the encrypt and decrypt functionality, or base 64. So you could create your own key that goes on the query string that would not be manipulatable by a user.
Yep.
And not reveal things.
Good point.
Cool. That was 50 minutes. Good job.
Thank you.
All right.
It was useful to everybody.
So I had other topics, but since people have joined since I got that going, is there something else that you want to talk about before I go on? A question that you needed answered? All right, here we go. Last week we got into a great discussion about the fact that in certain cases, deep linking, where you had filters and searches and whatever's, when you opened up another tab with the same URL, it wouldn't work, that things were getting cleaned up with friendlyized and they were not working. And since then, Bogdan pointed me, and I've relayed to Matt, that here under SEO, there's this setting here, whether or not to redirect to friendly URLs. And if you turn it off, that behavior we were seeing the other day goes away.
Yeah, we looked at that. We talked about that, I think, but
No. So there was additional information that Bogdan had, which is that you also have, when you make this change, caching is in play, and particularly browser cache, but also server cache. So you'd need to clear your browser cache or come at it with another browser in order to avoid that the redirects were cached. I think they're 301 redirects, and so we probably tried this and then saw that it didn't work and moved on. And had we cleared the browser cache, it would have worked. That's his contention, and I saw it at work. So the one case where I saw this breaking on our systems, Matt, did you happen to try that answer?
No, I did not. My concern is with a pre-existing site with lots and lots of pages. I don't know what the effect would be elsewhere within the system. So was a bit reluctant just to try it.
Got it. So that kind of leads me to the topic I was trying to First of all, as far as I know, this solves the problem. If you're having this problem with listings and the URLs being rewritten in an unfortunate way, if you came to support with that, I would say turn off this redirect friendly URLs, clear your browser cache, clear your system cache, and it would run. So Bogdan raised the point that maybe we should be managing this, that allowing the switch to be on in a plant and app environment would be is uh, wrong for most people most of the time. And so we're wondering, should we flip this switch, let you know that we're switching it, you can switch it back, but on installation or on this one-time update that we would flip it. And so I'm here to get feedback on that idea.
Does anyone have any experience with this? I've not, tried switching it on and off.
I have not either.
So is the essentially your comment is that, or your concern is the fear of the unknown. What am I going to break versus what am I going to gain?
Yep.
Yep. So let me put it this way. If you came to a hotfix that said we're going to switch this switch, if you don't like it, switch it back, would you be offended by that, or
No, not offended. Well, I guess that again, fear of the unknown is exactly it. And if you switched it, if I went in and switched this off and other things started to get negatively impacted, if then I said, okay, let me turn it back on and everything goes back to being happy, that's okay. But I don't know, I have not used it, so I don't know what the downside risk is.
yes? So almost certainly flipping it back. This is not a one-way thing. This is how am I treating when we get a URL that looks like this? Do I try and flip it to do I try to redirect it to friendly URLs? Um, so um, almost certainly when you turn it off, if you don't like it, you could turn it back on.
Yeah.
And from what little I know about the workings of the internet, what this is saying is when you turn it on, it's actively managing your URL, trying to make it be friendly. And that's the thing that's doing the 301 redirects. When you turn it off, it's no longer doing that. So um, as far as I know, that while you would have to do some browser cache clearing when you turn it off to get rid of the redirects that already exist, turning it on, you would not be in that same situation. There wouldn't be any redirects in cache. So turning it on would be a more instantaneous return to normalcy.
Right. Well, if that proves to be the case, then it's certainly worth experimenting with.
I think that from my perspective, I'd rather see it as a if as a suggestion to try turning off redirected friendly URLs rather than planting up changing it, because I think that on a very complex site it could you might have hard-coded URLs, people might have saved URLs,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
And um, and I'm gonna agree with you with a but, right? I think that the URLs that were hard-coded or bookmarked would continue to work. It doesn't keep them from working. And yet, you could have a case where you were doing logic to say if the URL is this, and that logic could be impacted because it would no longer be equal to, right? So I'm not saying there's no chance of interaction. So my takeaway is you might be happier seeing it as a recommendation, not something that we actively manage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in a new installation of Plant an App, on an existing DNN site, there could be the exact same concern. So maybe we come up with a recommendation that, okay. I think I've answered the question. The community would prefer to see it as a suggestion, not an action. Okay. I have 3 more minutes, and so I'm going to mention this as a topic, and maybe we can pick it up next week. We are in the midst of, we're very actively working on Forms 2.0, and we're rethinking all the things that are currently part of Forms, and we got into a whole discussion about validation. And there is a setting in Forms that's this form setting advanced enable client-side validation. You click it, and rather it's checked by default. So the impact is that as people are interacting with your form, the validation that can happen in JavaScript on the client side, on the browser side, is happening. Does anybody have an instant case where they say, oh, I always turn this off, or I turn it off because of this?
I can't think of a reason why offhand that you'd want to have it off.
Are you looking for like a global setting where all of it doesn't happen on any field?
I think we were working on the question of, do we continue to keep this setting? Is there a reason to keep this setting or put it into the new product? I experimented with this for, again, 10 minutes today and find that, let me see which way I have it set here. So it's this setting right here, and it's in its default functionality. That what happens is, as you interact with the form, that it pops up, and it's not doing a server request. It's just at the JavaScript level, it's popping up these messages. If you turn this off, that it's not doing any of that until you press the button. So I'm interacting with the form now in the same way that I did a minute ago, and nothing's happening if I add and remove stuff. And yet when I click the button, then all that happens. So it would be a way of deferring some validation. The form isn't jumping around and doing stuff, doing anything for you. But most people like the information sooner than later, I would think. But that's the main difference that I see on that switch.
In an answer to your question, from my point of view, I have turned that off so that when people are typing something, like I can remember an email address where it's telling you constantly that it's not a valid email address while you're still typing it. It seems, I don't know, it's a programmer's term, but it seems rude. It's telling you you're wrong and you haven't even finished it yet. So I have turned it off and used other technique to validate it.
And that's a great point. I'm turning that on for and actually let's do it here. We'll enable client-side validation, see if we can see the rudeness in play. So right there.
Hmm. You know, we protect the appearance of our forms pretty much. I do. I don't need those negative messages unnecessarily.
And so sorry, come on. I'm going to just demonstrate that same thing. So now I'm typing. Yeah. So it would defer that and not be insistent as you're typing. So it's a great use case. If anybody thinks of another one, I'm going to bring this up next week so that we can do that. But I'm going to tease a little bit. We're thinking about some interesting features in validation. So I want to get your opinion on those. Please come. And if you have any ideas about how we could make validation be more useful to you in the new forms product, where do you struggle, what could be better? We'd love the ideas. Putting them in the pipeline early helps us get them in rather than it turning into a rewrite later on. So come with ideas or send them if you can't happen to come. And let's see. I'm going to bring us to our end. We've gone over our hour, so I just want to thank you for spending your hour with us. Thanks for all the participation and the interesting problem, Matt. So glad that you did that. If you have a moment, hang around for Afterglow. We'll chat some more. Thanks.